Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another week of In the Buff. And I'm Zach. This is Rob. Um, Taylor's an asshole.
Just jump into that.
I'm
I really feel about that.
I gotta say, I'm just so glad that he's gone. So that's my intro this week. um, we had a really good episode last night. A lot of a lot of a lot of good stuff happened, um, and hopefully we'll be able to cover it all. As we out there watching, I am a little bit tired. I've been working 6 a.m. shifts the last 3 days, but I'm pushing through this week. We're next week is Thanksgiving, so there won't be a show next week. Everybody have it's just a fun time with family or friends or whatever you're doing.
And lots of time.
Yeah. Eat plenty of food. Just stuff yourself. Just eat more food so that you can eat more food, like Taylor did. So, let's get to it. So, we started out, where we usually start out at the beginning of each episode, people coming back from tribal council or the morning after. Since the merge happened, Adam has not been playing so great. He made a good move, voting out Figgy, and ever since it seems like almost ever since then, even it's just his social game has just been awful.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, what's he thinking? He must have no broader perspective of like what he's doing when he comes up to these people. Like, there's no strategy behind it because he's always admitting, like, yeah, I screwed you. Yeah, I did this. Yeah, whatever. Or like,
So you have no reason to work with me.
Sorry, dude. Like, what was it, Jay or somebody said? Oh yeah, he's just being an a-hole or something.
Yeah, I think that actually may have been Zeke. Like I said, I've been working early shifts and I haven't had a chance to rewatch the episode. I've been very busy. I'm very busy in the middle of the week lately. Yeah, I think it was Zeke who said that.
And that's sort of, I think we discussed it last week or previously. Like, I don't know what Adam's thinking because that's like the most unstrategic gameplay ever. Because even if because he's pretty truthful actually, but he's just creating enemies like by saying that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And I've seen tweets, and I don't remember if they're from former players or not, but I've seen like one of the biggest things that you're not supposed to do in Survivor is make people feel like they're on the bottom, because that's when they target you, which is kind of what's happening. We're seeing that Adam is becoming an easy vote down the line.
So he's still pulling it out.
Yeah.
At least this week. I mean, we'll see.
He is, because I think
that here. So.
It may have just because the vote was already set before they got the tribal council. But Adam's his social game is just horrible, and I think and it's probably being a rookie, being a first timer, and in addition to being a super fan, he's probably just, and I think I said this last week, he's just so excited to be there at this stage in the game, and he doesn't, he's kind of lost track of himself. And again, we're 24, 25 days into the game, and there's probably lack of sleep, lack of food has messed with his ability to think rationally.
Maybe. It's just kind of interesting, though, how things have changed, because originally it was David who was the one who was like overplaying and so excited.
Yeah.
Everything. And now it's totally become Adam, and like David's almost unnervingly quiet.
Yeah. Which is smart for David, because he knows he can be, he knows that he could be a target as well. But David's kind of figured it out early. What was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought completely. We were talking about David versus Adam and being excited to be there.
Well, strategic gameplay in general, which Adam doesn't seem to be doing very well right now.
No, not at all. Just absolutely horrible. Adam, just chill out, bro.
Yeah. Speaking of bros, though, let's move on to Taylor and Jay hanging out on the beach.
Right. Taylor, right. So last week we saw Taylor use his mason jar skills to steal food and bury it in the sand. And
it was interesting to me because he revealed that he had 2 mason jars, and I only remember seeing one that he stuffed.
Yeah,
maybe I just wasn't watching closely, but
and I don't think they really went into that point last week. It was like, oh, let me fill 2 mason jars, but I think that's obvious. It's obviously just that happened somehow. He's got 2 mason jars now.
But that's even worse than I thought originally.
I know
Dude. But apparently he stole like half of what was left or what was there.
And he's not the first person to steal food. There's been food issues in the past. So even like not just not stealing food, but even just like hiding it, or just taking food without, everybody remembers James and banana etiquette.
Right. But the interesting thing is this year, because they all kind of know it or at least suspect it or whatever, but nobody's really made an issue about it.
Yeah,
they just kind of let him walk off with it.
I think.
Wasn't it Brett or somebody woke up when he was in the act of it and he was just like, whatever, I'm going to go back to sleep. And that's when Adam or somebody went off with him. But regardless, like, they're not making an issue about it. In seasons past, like, if you have like a half an extra scoop of rice, they're like, I'll kill you.
Right. Right. And I think, Survivor's such a strange game where, because of the ever-changing moods and tides and whatever you want to call it, you can't make a big deal. You almost can't make a big deal out of anything, because once you start pointing fingers at one person, fingers are going to start getting pointed back at you. So even though everybody knows that Taylor took this food, no one's going to be like, Taylor, you took the food, we should vote you out, even though that's exactly what happened.
I was going to say, well, we'll discuss that when we get to tribal council. Like, was it the food that sealed the deal?
I don't. No, it wasn't. I don't. I hardly think that was what sealed it for him. I think he's just an ass.
Yeah.
Um,
Tails. I love that name.
Tails.
And
Anyway, but
so
they,
there are
they
also this week people who are stepping. So we talked about Adam playing a lot and David in the past, but now we have some other people stepping up into the game.
right. Um, so we had some confessionals from this week from some people who've been been a little invisible lately.
And
Uh,
one in particular was silent last week, right?
yes, that's correct. Sunday, I didn't get to, like I said, I didn't get to rewatch the episode and do my confessional count, but I was paying attention enough that I think Sunday got 3 confessionals, which is amazing.
Compared to having none last week.
Right.
Like, oh, I remember you.
Yeah, it's like, where have you been? Yeah, but and then we also heard a bit from Hannah. And if we're seeing more and more agendas coming out. We heard Chris's comment last week. That there's probably 13 different agendas there on that beach. So I think this week we're starting to see some of them come out a little more than just the big name players who are taking up a lot of the airtime.
I think it's also a process of becoming more confident because, like, I think it was Hannah was the one who said, "Oh, I can do this," and "Oh, it's fun. I feel I want to do more of this." Or something.
Yeah,
That sort of
Hannah was so excited to be on the right side of the vote. So, and to be one of the instigators, one of the pushers.
And then, well, jumping ahead a little bit, but then she ends up getting to be the team captain or whatever. She gets to choose the sides for the first challenge.
Yeah, and being a captain's hard. I don't know that. When I was in high school, I hated. I liked playing sports a little bit, but I actually preferred being the captain because whenever I wasn't the captain, I never got picked as high as I thought I should. I was never last, but I was never like.
Oh,
I was always like.
I was frequently last, but that's okay. No hard feelings. It's over.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that picking selection. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. So it's Hannah and
Chris.
Chris.
And they had very different strategies when it came to picking their teams.
Well, it seems like Chris maybe had a strategy, but did Hannah or not? Or
Hannah's strategy, as I recall, was to draft Jay and Will so that she can keep them close to her. So that.
But didn't they give her a preview? Didn't they give her a preview of what the course was going to be before she had to pick?
I think for her it was more a strategy of these are the people I want to go on reward with,
or not,
or in her case, not go to reward with.
We talked about that. This was a perfect example of one of those challenges where you don't want certain people to be with other people if they do go on. Right. Secluded into the challenge because then your game could blow up. So maybe her strategy was to keep those people together. But it was also a really bad strategy. Yeah. You needed some brawn.
And they didn't really have any brawn. The most I
No,
think
they had good physical players. That's the thing about this challenge. They had good physical players on both teams, but you needed the muscle.
but Jay had the most muscle on that team. A scrawny surfer from Florida.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they had to push that box trunk, whatever it was, through that net. Like they just couldn't get it done.
it killed him.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's where the other team, Chris, which I don't know if it was just him picking his friends or whatever, but they worked really well together. They had the brawn, and they also used David strategically as the scrawny guy to go up and untie the keys.
right. And David was used to that role, which because he'd done it in previous challenges, whereas
And it all worked out well for them.
yeah, whereas Adam had not filled that role in the past. Um, so, but it's different this season because we're seeing a lot of challenges where you have to get up in the air and untie something, but there's no platform, and there's usually a platform. So I think that's a big part of what's different this season. You have to rely on other people. You have to almost literally stand on other people's shoulders, which I think is an interesting aspect of challenges. It makes the need for team chemistry a little greater.
Right. Well, it brings in like that whole trust issue. Like
Right.
you lift somebody up without a platform and everything. It's like those.
Um, but Hannah's team didn't get to go on reward. Chris's team, all the big strong men got to go on reward this time. And Taylor can apparently eat more food because he's been eating more food. Is there any truth to that? It's like, does that make any sense to you?
No, but I think maybe there is a little something like I've heard like if you don't eat as much, like your stomach does shrink down. You know, like if you're used to eating a lot.
I suppose I think kind of what he may have meant is just like he's been eating more, so his body is used to still being eating. And
I don't think what he's eating though is that bulky. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, I do know what you mean.
A couple of pretzels and some dried fruit. So
some snacks,
yeah.
bite-sized pieces of snacks.
I don't think it's making that big of a difference. Like he definitely probably has more calories, certainly, than the others have. And we know, wasn't it last season or whatever the old guy ate steaks and whatever.
Right.
He got evac. So
to remind you all, last season Joe won a reward. It's so easy for me to say. Did what almost any of us would have done when you're hungry and just pigged out to his heart's content. Some delicious steak. But it ended up interfering with his digestive system somehow, and he couldn't process it.
I thought of that challenge though when they showed those burgers and they were like huge, like really big burgers that they gave them at the reward.
Yeah. So for any of you who are applying to Survivor, just remember, after halfway through, and you go to a food challenge, don't eat so much food. Just have one burger, maybe 1.5 burgers. And that's probably all you can handle.
Yeah, right. And remember, you also can't handle your alcohol either,
Nice.
or Brett.
Oh,
I mean,
um,
Lord knows I love a cocktail too, but seriously, man,
yeah.
it's sloppy.
Don't don't overdrink either, because that's when you that's when you start revealing things.
Indeed.
Revealing things that are secrets kept. Um, Brett apparently seems to um, still has his is keeping his profession a secret. Um,
I guess I think we're kind of at the point of the game where they don't care about that stuff, though. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that stuff matters anymore because nobody's like a
is
superstar, and they're not like trying to draw it out.
is there a point in the game for that though? Because
Oh, maybe it'll show its head later, but I think right now it doesn't matter. They're like, oh, he's from Boston.
is it right?
You know what I mean? Which I think uh, has enough edge to it. To,
Well, I can't. Any people from Boston, especially on Survivor, you can't think of people being from Boston without thinking of Boston Rob.
exactly.
So it's
And
like,
they have like the same accent. Like it's so stereotypical.
yeah.
I'm,
So it's
I,
Boston. It's a very distinct accent that you pretty much don't hear anywhere else.
no,
So,
not nowhere else for sure.
um, no disrespect to anybody from Boston.
Oh no, I love Boston.
It's we uh, just having a little fun at their expense.
Yeah.
I've never been to Boston.
Oh, you have to go to Boston, Zach, and you have to take a duck tour.
The what?
A duck tour.
A duck tour.
Yeah, so they have these
What?
amphibious vehicles.
Amphibious,
Yes, amphibious.
meaning they go in the water.
Well, yeah, you get on this big army type truck thing, like an open deck thing, and they drive you around the city, and they talk about history, and then they plunge you into the river in the same vehicle, and it's called a duck tour. It's really cool. It's like fantastic thing to do it.
Duck tour. Well, that would have not been on my list of things to do without
Great.
being recommended. Wow. I don't know if I'd ever even planned to visit Boston, but now I'm just curious about this duck tour.
It is a little cold.
It's yes, especially now. I'm not sure what the temperature is in Boston right now, but I think it's pretty cold. I'm not. See, the things that I know about Boston are mostly sports related. And I'm not as big a sports fan these days. I used to be a much bigger sports fan, but I've never been a fan of any Boston sports other than the. I, I rooted for Boston and I rooted for the Celtics in the 2008 NBA Finals because I wasn't a Kobe fan. But besides that, I tend to root against them. Just
I like Boston not because of sports, because I'm not a huge sports fan, but
yeah.
Boston's a very civilized city. And it's very historic too, so it's worth a visit if you get.
But apparently, Boston cops are very recognizable.
Well, yeah, and not that I have a lot of experience with them, but like, I think they're very recognizable because they tend to be like really Boston type of people. Do you know what I mean? Like And that comes along with the accent that we're talking about. And I think that's the same in New York City too. Like, you can kind of tell a New York City cop or a person from New York by their accent and the way they handle themselves. And I think Brett plays into all those stereotypes. Like, it's not a bad thing, but like, it's just how it is. Like, you know, those kind of people, that's what they sound like, that's who they are, that's part of the fabric of that city and that culture and everything.
Right.
It's much more bland, you know, in the Midwest, down south, the rest of the country. But things are much more distinct in certain areas of the world, particularly like New England and New York, the East Coast.
Right. So, moving on. Not that this isn't interesting.
Right, Survivor.
Survivor is very fun to talk about. We had this cool immunity challenge, and we've seen this one before.
I was going to say, it was similar. I didn't know it was exactly the same. But I remember all the elements.
Yeah, we've seen this. We had this exact challenge in South Pacific, season 23, 10 seasons ago. That was a challenge where they also had the compete or eat option. We also saw this challenge kind of reformed in Cagayan in Cambodia, where instead of the rolling platform, they just had a ball on a stick.
Right. So my first impression of these sorts of challenges is you choose to eat. What does that say to everybody else? So Zeke and Will chose not to play.
It can say a number of things, because it can say, you know, what Jeff seems to infer that it says is that, oh, I don't need it, I'm safe, I'm hungry, let's eat. On the other hand, it could also say, this isn't my challenge. There's a 0% chance that I'm going to win this.
Or that I'm not a threat at this point.
That's
not
option
for it. I'm also not a threat to you, so don't vote for me.
That's a good option C that I probably would have got to eventually, maybe. But yeah, those are the things. You're either confident that you're safe. You're either confident that you're not gonna win, so you're gonna eat and refuel yourself.
But it was like
you're not, or you're confident that you're not a threat at that moment.
Yeah, totally. One point of production I think is worth bringing out. Did you notice Jeff's insistence that, ooh, there are soft drinks, Will? Or, Will, you can't drink the beer, you know. Did you notice that it's kind of odd?
I noticed that.
It was like, yeah, it was very prominent too. I was like,
it was very, but it will. By the way, you know you can't drink. That is like,
I just funny.
Like, yeah, I can just kind of see Will, you know, saying, "Yep, I know. Thanks, Jeff."
And like rolling his eyes.
It was funny. At the same time, it was just like, but I kind of know why they added that in there. It's just because,
like, they probably have to, like, but
because we've taught. I've seen I've seen in I think in the past, I want to say in the past year, um, through Twitter, people talking about, oh, well, because they're in, foreign nations, the drinking age is 18 there. But, um, the thing about Survivor is that it's an American game. And so because of that, because it airs in the U.S., not only do you have to follow the local laws, but you also have to follow U.S. laws. So um, they can't. So something like an 18-year-old drinking, you can't promote that on American TV just because you're in another country. So, and it's
It's,
complicated.
well, and it's just an interesting note of production and how they sort of like bring it out. Sometimes how Jeff is just sort of kind of a puppet in a way. Or it
Yeah,
seems. Like I used to really like Jeff, but like more and more he's sort of becoming the Bob Saget. Do you remember Bob Saget from America's Funniest Videos?
how could I forget Bob Saget?
But do you know what I mean? Like he's sort of becoming this just like schmuck in a way. That you're just like, seriously? Did you just ask that question again? Because we
Yeah,
talked about like the first episode, he like awkwardly, or maybe it was the second episode where he was awkwardly like, "You text the letter U?"
it's the you versus you discussion. But this, no, Jeff is an amazing host, but yeah, this season he's like really kind of forcing the theme, and
Or maybe he's just phoning it in or something. You know,
it's.
I don't know.
I hope not, because this season has still has a lot of potential. And it's still been really good. Jeff's just been really bad.
I think, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Totally.
No, um, but it's whatever. Jeff. Next, um, Jeff's gonna do what he thinks he needs to do as a producer. Um,
It's interesting to me. Speaking of Jeff, and I thought about it tonight because I usually look up like the cast list because I am horrible with names, even though at this point I should know them all. But particularly that. And so if you Google Survivor cast, like it pops up like one of the first ones in Google. But do you know who the first person on the cast that's listed is? And this is the mobile version. But I find it odd because I don't
it,
think of him as a cast member. Is Jeff Probst. Like we all know who Jeff Probst is. I just find that
yeah. Well, it's because he's the host and he's in the most episodes.
is he really a cast member? Like
I don't. I don't make those decisions.
well, I don't either. But it's interesting because when we talked with Ryan 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks,
Right.
2 weeks ago,
It
he was like,
approximately.
"Yeah, I think." He had a really visceral reaction to something one of us said, or something about Jeff Probst, and he was like, "Yeah, Jeff has too much influence on casting." I can't remember the exact quote, but and I was like, "Huh." And once he said that, I've been thinking about Jeff a bit more, like his behind the scenes, because he's not just the host; he's also like involved in. He's the producer or whatever. Like,
Right.
he's more involved than just sitting at tribal council and asking questions.
Yeah. So, I'm. He's been really forcing the themes lately. Not so much last season. I don't feel like brains versus brawn versus beauty. It's hard to kind of force that. Um, that has a way of kind of playing itself out, and especially when they get mixed up, then it's all fine. But
Well, maybe somehow this year the theme is just a little weaker because it's not necessarily as apparent. Because if you look at certain,
it's millennials versus Gen X. The theme is absolutely horrible.
I don't think it's horrible, but it's not obvious because you look at, for example, Zeke and who's the youngest on the Xers. You know what I mean? It's like, well, Zeke could be either, and it was much more clear, with like brawn versus beauty. You're like, oh, you're muscly, beautiful, and you have blue eyes, and all this stuff. Like it's much more superficial, and it usually is. And I think
Right. Yeah. The whole the season's theme just kind of seems a little forced, but this isn't the first time they've done an age gap season, but it's the first time they've actually like made that the theme. Um, so interesting point I thought of yesterday. This is completely off topic, but this season we have Will, who is the youngest player in Survivor history at 18 years old. Um, we've only had a handful of teenagers play Survivor, and last week Will won individual immunity. And I was doing some counting and some research, and I think we've only had 5 teenagers, 18 or 19-year-olds, play Survivor, and only one of them has not won individual immunity, and he was voted off pre-merge. And that was Spencer Doom from Toku Chains. But the other 4 are Natalie Tenorelli.
But did Spencer play twice?
Spencer, that was different Spencer.
Oh, okay. You tweeted something about this, and
Yes,
first
yes, I did.
Spencer, I wondered if I was forgetting a Spencer because I was like,
yeah,
and he was older though. He wasn't a teen,
right.
so he was young.
Spencer Doom played in season 18. Was the show's first teenager. University of Florida student. No, just throwing that out there. Go Gators.
Is that the one in
Gainesville?
Oh, Gainesville, right?
Yeah.
Florida Gators.
I tried to get in there, but I didn't. My timing was off, and so I didn't make it. So because I applied a little too early, I didn't have my AA, and so I got a rejection letter.
What's an A?
My Associate of Arts.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Neither here nor there. Season 22, we had Natalie Tenorelli. She won the first individual immunity challenge. Brandon Hance in South Pacific, going back again 10 seasons ago. He won an individual immunity and promptly gave it away. Got voted out. Lost at Redemption Island. Last season, we had Julia Sokolowski. I don't know if I pronounced her name. Another Bostonian. Who was, at the time, she was the youngest player to ever play Survivor. Managed to win an individual immunity herself. And then this season we have Will, who won the first individual immunity also. So We've got a good trend of
And then he felt confident enough to not have to play this week. So
yeah. So felt like he needed it last week, and he sat out this week. So that's an interesting turn of events.
actually,
Um,
for a younger player, I would give Will some snaps. I think he's being pretty cool-headed, strategic at times. Like,
he's been very kind of under the radar,
yeah, a little bit, but I think he's under the radar. But I think he's still playing. Like,
but I wonder if he's not playing a woo game where he's just kind of following in a leader's footsteps and just doing what they're told.
so, like, if Jay and now Tails aren't there, like, what's going to happen to him?
Yeah, I don't know. Um, but yeah, I really, I don't know. Um, another interesting tidbit, and also again involving Will. Um, on the seasons, that involved an eight, where the um, tribes were split by age difference. Season 12 and season 21. The youngest male on the season won both times. So I don't see Will winning, but that's just an interesting point.
I think we should have like a weekly blog post of random facts from Zach. Random facts from Zach. It rhymes. I love it. And that would be a good one because who remembers this stuff? But that's really great. Like, so the youngest player from those seasons in the past.
Well, the youngest male.
The youngest male. Oh, even better.
Is the youngest, yeah.
Even better. Wins or wins out in those seasons.
Yeah, Aris, who some of you may remember, he played his first time was season 12 Panama, and later played again on Vetus with his brother Vetus.
Is his brother Vetus?
Yes.
The most interesting names ever.
Well, they're from their heritage is Lithuanian, I believe.
I was going to say it's either Scandinavian or Eastern European. I remember looking it up because they were very interesting.
Yeah, and it could be
in a second.
I could be wrong, but
didn't Vetus come back for another season? Because he was voted out early.
Yeah, Vetus was voted in by the fans to Survivor Second Chance, and unfortunately was the first. He was the first boot of the season. It was just a bad social game in the first 3 days. That's all. So, but season 21, Nicaragua. Judd Fabio Berza was the winner, the youngest male of the season. He was not the youngest player. Kelly Shin, Purple Kelly, was the youngest player that season, I believe. But Judd is the youngest winner of all time still. At least at the time of winning. Anyway.
That's an interesting fact.
So now we've got Will, who probably isn't going to win. I would not put money on Will winning this season right now.
That's a tough one. I don't know. So, well, let's talk about sort of where it all lines up right now. So Will and Jay are definitely on the bottom right now because their alliances
and
they don't have anything left, really.
Right. Their Triforce, Jay's Triforce is gone. His
Yeah,
his fourth is gone. All he's got is Will.
and that's not much, but they were trying to sort of kind of recruit Sunday in for a while this week.
Mhm.
So
And
we haven't really touched on that yet.
we haven't. Um, Dang it, I'm so tired. I forgot again something else I was going to say. Um,
So because Sunday brought
I was going to.
Sunday is paranoid with Jess was sort of where that whole
Right.
going.
Ever since the Jess vote that David used his idol, we haven't seen much from any, that original four. The Brett, Chris, Sunday, Jess, and we're not really sure what. I'm not really sure what broke them up as an alliance. Um,
Well, it was a pretty loose because it was so early. Those early ones never tend to be quite as strong as when they're developed a little later.
Yeah, that's true. But I still really like Jess, and I'm kind of upset that Sunday doesn't trust her. But
I didn't fully understand. But Sunday sort of had the agenda. It wasn't that she didn't trust her. It was that, wasn't it that Jess had voted for her in one of those earlier votes, and that's why she was targeted?
it was if I recall correctly. Again, I haven't watched the episode the second time yet. But Sunday was didn't like doesn't wants to get rid of Jess because she thinks that Jess is going to be gunning for her because they were friends early on, and then Sunday voted for her, and so she's kind of worried about her own safety in the game because of her own actions.
So maybe. I mean, it's sort of strategic plan, I guess. But then we get to, so let's move ahead. We get to Tribal Council.
Right. Ken has immunity.
And as Zach puts it, and he sent me a little note before we do this. He said, Taylor does a thing.
Right. Well, those I believe were Taylor's words.
Oh, was it Taylor? I missed that.
I think that's a
I just thought it was funny.
Taylor.
Indeed, he did a thing.
Because he prefaced this with you're real serious. He's like, okay, Jeff, you're gonna do a thing. And then
I need to rewatch it.
And then he confesses to his transgressions of stealing food and has 2 mason jars full of food that he buried, and that he and Jay ate, and that Adam shared it with them, and he kept the secret.
Well, the big thing though that he was lying about was that he claimed that Adam had eaten it originally.
Right.
I think it's true that Adam did not. Adam was there when he stole it and buried it, but Adam did not eat it.
And he from what we saw on TV.
Yeah, what we saw
was Taylor offered him some food, and Adam said, "No, thanks. I'm not hungry. You dig in. I'm not going to tell anybody." But he didn't want any. He rejected the food.
So Taylor does that,
and did that contribute to his downfall?
Well, was it a Hail Mary or did he know? Was it a Hail Mary that Taylor thought maybe he was going to save himself?
I don't. I
Or
don't
did
think
he just want to
he.
blow up Adam because he
I
knew he
think.
was probably going to go home? Or he
I
was.
think. I think that was it. He wanted to blow up Adam's game, which Adam was doing a fine job of that already by himself.
Yeah, he didn't need a whole lot of help.
Um,
Because
but
Jay's going to stay around.
Taylor knew that his name was on the chopping block. He knew it was either him or Jay that night. So he said, "Let me tell you what I've done. Just get it out there in the open, and then let me tell you what he's done, because it's worse." That's
And he let him know about Adam's advantage. So there was that whole big thing earlier in the episode about, so Adam knows that Taylor has the stash, but Taylor knows that Adam has the advantage, and one is more important than the other, but they're not going to tell each other, but they're not going to give up their secrets for it. What do you think about that?
I. You know, I don't know. It was.
They made this issue,
I
like,
thought.
one's more valuable than the other, but we're going to keep each other safe for it. I was kind of
Well,
like,
I thought Adam was dumb from the start for even talking to Taylor and telling him this. That was probably the worst decision Adam's made.
well, it's sort of the worst two players on the season together, right?
Yeah.
Adam and Taylor, essentially, right now.
Not to say that I would be unhappy to see Adam play again. I would love to see Adam play a second time. Like I think Adam would be perfect for a fans versus favorites 3.
Maybe. Well, that's kind of the question because, like,
Right.
it seems like Adam isn't aware of like what he's saying sometimes, or like how he's
No,
across. Because, like, when he was
no,
talking
he's
today, which we talked about, like, he doesn't seem to get that he's like coming across like an asshole.
his self-awareness is subpar.
He's pretty strategic. Like, he's playing a pretty good game. But he's one of those players like Ty, for example, last season. Because even if he is playing strategic and does well, everybody hates him in the end.
Because you're making
Yeah, you're making more than
you're flipping, you flip flop, and then you make
Yeah.
bad decisions and you have a bad social game.
Well, and I don't think he's even flip flopping necessarily, but he's just like,
Well, to an extent, he's not like flip flopping the way that some people have done in the past, but Hannah said it best last week. You know, where she said, Adam, he wasn't content to play with the weirdos. He had to go sit at the cool kids table. When he's over there talking to Taylor, trying to see where the vote's going and what's trying to figure out what's best for him. But what was best for him was going with the majority. But he figured it out. He's just been bad at it. Really bad. Interesting thing, Adam only gets one vote, and it's Taylor's. In the meantime, Will and Jay, because they know it's one of them, everybody knows it's one of them, and they're not sure who it's going to be, but they split the votes because they're worried about an idol. Will actually ends up voting for Jay, while Jay voted for Taylor.
right, and that only came out like in the final scenes.
Right. And that was very surprising to me.
And I think this is one of the first episodes that we've seen like every vote that was cast eventually. Like we sort of know in the past, but like they showed everybody's little screen.
Yeah.
So what do you make of
So,
that? Or it was interesting.
I think it made sense once I saw it. I thought, okay, well, this makes sense. Um, Will thought it was going to be Jay because Jay's been playing a better game. He's been a bit more strategic, and he has an idol. Will knows he has an idol, so we thought, okay, well, let me vote for Jay. Maybe I'll get rid of the idol.
But nobody knows he had, or well, not many people know he has.
No, Jay and Will know that Jay has the idol. I don't even know if he told Taylor. I don't remember him doing that.
Yeah,
So,
he didn't. So.
um, but um, Jay also figured out that it was either him or Taylor, and so he knew that he had to vote for Taylor, and that's why he didn't play the idol last night. I thought for sure it was going to be Jay going home, but he can't. But he put an extra vote on Taylor.
I keep on waiting for like because past couple of weeks it's been really tense. Like in some seasons, people would have already just because paranoia would have already played the idols, and every week they're like so confident. Like, nope, I'm not going to play it. I'm going to sit here.
Yeah. It's
And this was it. This was another one that
usually
was like, somebody's
usually
got to play the idol. Come on.
usually it happens early in the merge too.
Yeah.
Um,
And they seem
so
confident not playing the idols. I was just like, really?
so it'll it may happen next week though,
Well,
because we
we
got
haven't played it, and we've been predicting that the double elimination
right
coming. So I think the idols could play a big part in that. In the end.
right. And we saw the preview last night. Um,
And part of that.
The entire preview for next week was Will telling Zeke Jay has an idol, and then the you know whispers spread like wildfire, and everybody knows now that, or will know that Jay has an idol. Um, and to review, Jay has an idol, Adam has an idol, and David has an idol.
David has an idol.
Zeke knows that David has an Zeke knows that David has an idol.
And who knows that Adam has an idol?
I'm not sure. No, I don't think Jay knows. I think
Was it Taylor? Somebody was, or was it when he found the reward or the advantage? Because remember, Adam was with somebody and he like ran around. Wasn't it Adam? When he found his idol? I can't remember.
I'm
That's going to be interesting.
No, I remember because Adam found the idol at Vanilla Beach, and then Hannah busted him. But we don't know if she actually figured out that he had the idol by then
Oh, okay.
because she was so far away.
But that's a lot of havoc to be had if we do have a double elimination coming up. 3 idols that could, like, I mean, random person could just totally disappear without any, I don't know. We'll see. Hello?
Oh, am I back?
You're back.
I'm back. Ah, that throws up. So we've got three idols in the game. We've got Adam's reward steal advantage, and then Jess has the legacy advantage, which we still don't know much about.
And they haven't even mentioned. I almost forgot about it.
Yeah, well, it's not.
And what was the week that she can play that? Because we're getting closer and closer.
I believe it's at Final Five, or day 36 rather, which is usually Final Five.
And we're around 25.
We're around 25, so they've got 11 days left.
She's got just over a week, so give her another couple of weeks and we can see this be played.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people think that it might be, the ability to just skip straight to the next stage, like it's immunity, essentially. That's what some people think. That's what I've heard the most. Pardon me.
That seems too boring.
I think it seems too boring, but also too obvious.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So my thought was that, well, maybe it's the ability to cancel an idol.
But if you have to wait till 5,
or it could just be an extra vote.
Well, an extra vote would be more interesting than immunity.
Well, especially if I think making the advantage an extra vote and saying, oh, the extra vote can be played here. The extra vote, this is where you're going to play the extra vote. I think that puts a new dynamic on that. Because they've been working with that extra vote for the last 3 seasons, trying to figure out, well, how can we make this work?
And to make it most power or most impact,
most useful.
Yeah, useful.
And it's because it's been wasted 3 seasons in a row. It's possible that when you're down to 5, and you've got this advantage of an extra vote, I think that's where an extra vote becomes extremely powerful.
True, because really the final 5 is really like the final 2, because it's usually pretty obvious,
yeah,
ways that can end up.
So it'll be. I'm definitely still anxious to see what that ends up being.
And I'd like to see Jessica still have it. Yes,
I would too.
I kind of like her. She's warming up. I'm warming up.
I don't think she'll win. But as the numbers dwindle, as the players get less and less, we're going to see more confessionals from other people who haven't had as much airtime lately.
Yeah, I think one of my original predictions was for Chris to be at the end. And I'm not for sure right now about Chris, because he was pretty silent this week, and he's been pretty much in the background. He's sort of like a competition beast. Like, he was the powerhouse that pushed them through.
And I haven't seen anything to. I said last week. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Jay, which is, even with his position, it's still a bit of a long shot. But the way he's playing is in addition to the consistency of confessionals. I think we could see. I still think we could see him as the winner.
And
Um,
we also see that he has sort of a global perspective in playing the game, which we don't from some of the other players.
right,
Like he seems to be aware. That's like where Adam is really failing right now.
for sure. Um, so yeah, it's still anybody's game. But we've got there's just so much to get through still. Three idols, two advantages, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Merry Christmas, happy.
Uh, and I honestly I have no idea what's going to happen. I know that people are going to. I think next week. I don't think Jay's going to be a target. I don't necessarily think Will's going to be a target either. I think they're going to realize
Well, that was
that
part of
they're gonna realize that
that they're
that
going to start.
Chris
Yeah,
Chris and Ken are the like top dogs as far as like competitors for challenges. Um,
and they're probably kind of behind the scenes trying to
yeah,
or,
so I would not be surprised if we saw a Chris or a Ken vote next week.
well, and it's time to even things up. But and I think the preview even pointed this out that they're going to start turning on themselves. So
Yeah.
there's hinted towards that.
So, um, any final thoughts?
Keep it coming. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving
The
to
light
everybody.
we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, though. I was thinking this week.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
starting
This
to fit. So.
we're starting. I don't even know how we've got to see a double elimination soon. We've got 11 players left.
Yeah, there's too many people.
We've got 11 players and maybe like 3-4 weeks left of Survivor.
Yeah, it's
I don't
kind
even.
of funny, like in Big Brother, where you want the big table to come to the small table.
Yeah.
We need that. We need tribal council to like come to the small tribal council.
So hopefully there aren't any evacuations coming. That would not be fun.
Yeah,
Um,
that's sort of the worst gameplay too, because and it's not game. It's just like bad A.
yeah.
Just like throws everything off. So
Um, so that's all we've got for this week. So everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Um, we will see you again in 2 weeks, talking about next week's episode and the episode following that. So everyone remember that clothing is optional, but nudity is not required.